but this is the transition. So if I was an alien life form, superior intelligence from some other galaxy or some other part of the universe, I would 100% be concentrating on integrating this new species into the galactic network, if there is one, and then, helping them get to this next stage. Because maybe life is fairly rare. Maybe intelligent life is much more rare. And maybe this thing that we're seeing is like these rare nuggets of some very precious thing that exists in the universe. And so they seek it out. And they recognize that this is the thing that brings them to the ultimate next stage.
Yeah, it's rare, but also potentially fundamental. And
right.
So basically consciousness as the core
right.
of all things,
yeah.
all matter. That guy you had on, who I actually connected with at one point, Philip Goth,
mm-hmm.
he's really interesting. He's a panpsychist.
Yes.
And those, actually Annika Harris, Sam Harris's wife, wrote a cool book, which I also haven't read, but I know about it. It's called Conscious, and it's all about panpsychism, which is cool coming from her because she obviously is like rigorous. If you're going to be married to Sam Harris, you probably need to not be full of woo. And so she kind of explored, and I listened to some podcasts with her explaining it. And so this is a real thing that's getting taken seriously. It's not necessarily like physically provable, but like you can't actually deny that it's a possibility that consciousness is sort of the engine of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, philosophically, when you're arguing against like materialism versus fundamental consciousness, like the materialists they kind of arbitrarily try to point to when consciousness emerges. It's like, but how can you pick that point? Like, because if all matter is evolving and like eventually becoming complex enough to, have conscious properties, but still, show me the exact time when you consider something conscious, because there's plants, there's all kinds of microbes, like you just keep going back.
Is it when it's reactionary to its environment and trying to preserve its own life, or is it when it's interactive and conscious to the point where it's communicating? Is that when we decide that it's conscious? Is it when it's able to manipulate its environment like we are? I mean, do we obviously prioritize our consciousness above orcas because what we're doing to orcas is fucking horrific, and accept it in some strange way that, you can go to SeaWorld and watch something that might be as smart as us do tricks for fish. Like, why are we willing to do that? That's clearly a conscious thing that has a language. And yet we're like, yeah, stay in the pool, bitch. It's weird what we do and what we prioritize as consciousness. We seem to have like a caste system of our own where we decide that we only favor things that are able to manipulate their environment.
Yeah. I mean, but that's way beyond, I think, orcas, like that's so, maybe to other people, they don't consider orcas conscious, but I feel like that's like a certain type of person that really hasn't looked into this
they're
at all.
Clearly conscious.
They're clearly conscious. And then, but going back to microbe, I would say that a microbe is like obviously conscious. But that's just where I'm at in the conversation.
Maybe viruses are conscious as well.
Right.
There's obviously evolution in viruses.
It's all just
it's very rapid. Look what we saw in terms of variants from COVID, like these vaccine-resistant variants that popped up like almost instantaneously. That these viruses recognize where immunity is, and they figure out a way to move around that immunity and become more contagious.
There's also the words we use matter, like life and conscious are a little bit different, because something would be considered alive probably earlier than most people would consider conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the panpsychists like to talk about experience. Is the matter having any sort of an experience. And sometimes that's a little bit more digestible for people.